Hey kids, in today's episode we are going to start a new series called Make It Pretty Monday. If there's one thing that I've learned in years of doing this is that no matter how elegant the solution or how wonderful your code is, nothing seems to make the same impact as the bells and the whistles do. As much as I hate that, it's true. So today we're going to go over one of those bells and whistles that I found, and hopefully it'll be something that you can add to your apps that just gives it just a little bit of flair. So let's go take a look. Hey, so what I've built today, what we see here is something very simple. We have a gallery with some data and the edit form. I'm not a fan of the edit form, but it'll do for today's example. And what I want to show you is the scenario that comes up very often where we have a list of items we want to select, and then that selection populates our form. Again, very common scenario. But what I have been working on lately got me to a point where I needed to showcase which item was selected. Again, very simple. Now, in times past, what I would do is simply change the template fill of the selected item. So for example, we see here in our onStart, I have my var selected item. We come here to, we have a template fill, but what we're going to do first is say our onSelect set var selected item to this item. So that gets us our selection. Now what we do with that as we make a click, so we click, nothing happens. But if we come back to our template fill, for example, we see here we have our one. So if we do a if, oops, give some space, if var selected item dot ID equals this item ID, give it a color. If not, give it white. So we have now, if we play it, we see here we select our item. Now, of course, I did not do my form of our item to var selected item. So we see here, okay, our form works. So we have this selected. My color choice isn't great, but again, developer, green, gray shirt. But at least we have an idea of how to select it. Now what I wanted to do was sort of flare this up and give it a little bit more personality. Now to start, I have to admit this was inspired. I did not come up with this entirely on my own, the method at least. What I did, for those who may not know, Shane Young, if you don't know Shane Young, first off, leave here, go read him. But I'm sure most of the people here have at least seen Shane's videos, and he has one, this Make Apps Pretty and Easier to Use. And in that, he discusses the use of SVG scripts or markup to have as the content for an image. Now this is great. He goes to, again, into W3 Schools, and this is nice because it gives you the ability to tinker with your SVG markup without having to put it in a Power App. So he references this, I'm referencing this, but by all means, check out this video. He goes through ways to use SVGs to do quite a lot. But what I wanted to use them for was in a way to make this selection a little bit more intuitive for my users. All right? So we see here, we're not going to deal with the form, but we look at our gallery, and it's a nothing special gallery. We've affected our template fill, that's good. The only other thing I've done already is I've reduced the template padding to 0. So I wanted them condensed in pretty good without having to worry about a border. And I'll show you why in a second. So we look here, we see our template size is 63, that's important. What I want to do and what I'm aiming to do is give a bit of a pointer to this particular selected item to at least indicate that this is the item, pointing to the form to give my users a little less thought that they have to do. And to do that, based on Shane's video, what I thought to do is I'm going to grab an image, whoops, and place it in the proper place. I'm going to grab an image and I'm going to drop it in my gallery. I'm going to move it way over here And if I remember everything right, I want my width to be, oops, 35. All right, it doesn't really matter. It's whatever width works for you, but for the example, this is what I have set up. And you see the image here is sample image. Does us no good. So using Shane's tutelage, I'm going to copy some code and we're going to go through it real quick and I'll show you what it is I want to do. So SVG markup code, for those who haven't watched the video yet, can be placed as the image source in a Power Apps image, and that's what's really the key to this whole thing. So if we paste in that code, we see here we have a point, but let's look at what that does first. So as the W3 schools pointed out, there are different shapes that you draw in an SVG markup, and we see here that so we have a height of 63 and a width of 65. I've already kind of pre-done that as I was setting up for this video. This is where you will adjust this based on your particular gallery. We see here we got 63, width 35. Whatever works for you, whatever you're using, you'll adjust that here. But what the SVG will allow us to do is stack different objects within the SVG markup. It's a lot like HTML, XML. I mean, you've seen this before. But what we have here is two different objects. We have a rectangle and a polygon. There is no triangle object, so it's just a polygon series of points. And the idea is these stack in order. So in order to get this triangular point, I stacked a white rectangle, and then on top of that I did the triangle, in this case the polygon. And we see that here. The rectangle is going to fill 100%, 100%, and we are going to fill it with white, no stroke, because we don't need an outline here, and boom, we have a rectangle. And from here we also see now I have a polygon, and I have the 3 points for my polygon. So this will be 63 actually. And you can tinker with this, of course. That's what the W3 schools does so well, is that it allows you to say, I want to come in and take this polygon, go here, do it, try it yourself, and you can come in and just paste that in, hit run, and it makes a triangle. And it allows you to come in and say, okay, well, what is this point? So if I make it 25, what does it do? Okay, so that's my upper point. Don't need that one. If I make this one 25, we see that that's the lower point. And this is where you can come in and truly do some experimentation. In this case, you see the 31, roughly half of the original 63 width. So if we change that, it should change our main pointing corner of the triangle. So this gives you the opportunity to go without having to go into Power Apps, where you can just sort of tinker with your SVG. But again, we see here we have built our triangle. And that's what sits on top of the white rectangle. So as you see here, if we just hit play, we now have a pointer on our selected object, because we've taken the template fill, which will fill the entire background with our gray color. And then on top of that, we layered in that image, which is built to have the white rectangle and then the gray triangle. The last step, of course, being, if we look at our template fill, that same if statement here, we need to apply to our image, and we apply it in our visible property. So if it is equal, we want it true. If it's not, we put it to false. And we see here now, as we select, we have it simply pointing to our form. Again, it doesn't change the functionality of the form. It doesn't even change much in the gallery, but it offers that visual cue for your users that gives them one less thing. It's the old, what the book, don't make me think. That's what this is helping to do. It gives them the, oh, I've selected. This is what's pointing over here for those that, this may not be intuitive for. So, hope that was helpful. Thank you again, Shane Young, as always, for everything you do. You're kind of the inspiration to most of us. I highly encourage you to check out all of Shane's videos, but for a more in-depth usage of some of the SVGs in much better ways, by all means, check this out. I have found it useful in several apps, especially as you're getting into different kinds of charting needs that go above and beyond what Power Apps offers. So again, thank you for your time. Hope that helps. See you guys next time.